No one should be in war, whether it's Palestine, right. Israel, the Congo, the Sudan, Tigray, like all these places. It's like this is all unnecessary, and I hope that seeing all this death and violence on our timeline would push us to say, you know what, we don't have to live in a world like this.
What's up? We are back. This week in White Supremacy. How y'all doing? My name is Jasiri X. I'm co-founder and CEO of One Hood Media. It's very cold in Pittsburgh today. You know what I'm saying? Like, we bundled up, thermaled out. You know what I'm saying? But we here bright and early. And ready to get it a little too early, Miracle? A little too early for Miracle. We're getting early morning Miracle today. You might not get a lot of takes.
No, you may get the worst takes. Moving from a place of rage.
It's a miracle. Yes.
I don't get it twice this week?
Oh.
I mean, if I do it twice every week.
Well, then sometimes you do it 3 times.
Oh, wow.
I mean, is one time too much for you?
Okay.
Never.
Are you sure?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Positive.
This is where we're going again.
And that's why I'm in the position I'm in now.
That's where we're going again.
Get a little too personal on this week of White Supremacy.
I'm here for your entertainment.
What's up? I'm glad you realized that. What's up, y'all? It's your girl Miracle, aka Big Blessing with the Big Blessings, not a morning miracle. Oh, I like that.
Not a morning miracle.
Not a morning miracle. But we here to turn up.
We here to turn up. And my brother.
It's your boy Trouble and the last niggas lack sleep. Sipping on this maple espresso tea. Try to make up for it.
Okay. All right. I like that. The tea. And you come across personally, like your personality as a tea drinker.
For sure.
Calm, cool. Get your tea. You know what I'm saying? And my brother.
Himbo Slice. You know, the man from Timbuktu.
Didn't somebody did that on Monday Night Football, right? Did somebody do that?
Terrell Suggs did Hacksaw Balsa Hart University.
Oh, and I thought somebody said like Hacksaw him dunk. Did somebody do that?
I don't think no, because Terrell
or Himothy. Somebody said like
someone said. I mean, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm setting trends though.
Yeah, you said the him trends.
Yeah, because I'm
absolutely
him, man.
Okay, I mean you him.
I'm him, man.
So as usual, we have a lot to talk about. Now we had been, the last couple of weeks. One of the running topics on the show has been what we saw as like a rise of Islamophobia, a rise of anti-Semitism. Mm-hmm. And at this point, it hadn't veered into like real violence, like maybe violence on a smaller scale. I know at one point, somebody threw like a cup of coffee at like a Muslim brother.
Yeah.
And his child that was arrested. It'd been like some minor scuffles.
Right.
But unfortunately, but we know what's coming, right? Unfortunately, like we've been in America for a while. A lot of us was here post 9/11, and we know when we see a rise, and we live in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
So we know when we see a rise in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, a lot of times it's followed up by violence. And unfortunately, there was a shooting in Vermont, in Burlington, Vermont, where 3 Palestinians were shot. By the accounts, it was, for what we know right now, it was that somebody like saw them, they were wearing keffiyehs, they were speaking Arabic, and that might have been the motive or the emphasis for the shooting. A Vermont man was shot. And I don't know if this is because Burlington, Vermont is seen as like a very liberal place. I don't know. I thought the police chief's comments were actually, for like a police chief, were like pretty good. The fact that he was like, hey, something like this in this environment, we have to look at it as a hate crime. We have to, because if you try to say that same old, like, we're just going to investigate it. So a man was arrested. Jason J. Eaton was arrested. So far, he has pleaded not guilty. And right now, we don't a full like motive as to why he did this hasn't come out yet or hasn't been revealed. Just starting with you, Miracle, what, like, I guess first, just what was your, like, when you hear this happening, what are your thoughts upon, you know, seeing like this rhetoric now turn to, again, unfortunately turn to violence?
I don't think anyone was surprised that it happened when we talk about like white supremacy becoming a reality of our everyday lives. We know there's always a violent component to white supremacy. What I think a lot of people found interesting was that the police chief was like, yeah, this is probably going to be a hate crime based on the fact that these men, they were just walking around the block and he came out, confronted and shot him. I think when the news tried to say, oh, he has mental health issues and he's just depressed, you saw so many people come out and say depression does not make people anti-Palestinian. This is based on the rhetoric that we're seeing from our presidents, from our leadership, from people who have failed to see Palestinian people as humans for the past like month and a half. And someone to even argue before then. This is the result of that. You're always going to create situations of violence when you dehumanize people and create them and prop them up as the other. And that is why so many folks have been begging elected officials and college deans to actually show up and care for their students, and because they haven't, it creates these conditions where you see someone with a keffiyeh and you see them as a threat and you feel like you're justified in using the worst form of violence when approaching. And I will say that this is a wave of violence, talking about the 6-year-old who was stabbed in Illinois, that set it off. And there's even this idea to associate all Palestinians or all organizers with Hamas and saying that they all need to die. This is what happens. That when you don't educate yourselves, when your elected officials aren't educating their communities, you're creating this basically local domestic terrorism. And now everybody's trying to figure out what happened. And what happened is you didn't educate yourself, you didn't educate your community, and you created the same conditions of 9/11. And the only difference between now and 9/11 is that originally it was Sikhs who were getting abused right after 9/11 because people didn't understand that there are multiple religions that have turbans and garments where people cover their heads. And so the only thing different now is that Palestinian people are the targets and not other communities and cultures.
Wow. So just a couple of points to what you said. The chief said, and the chief's name is John Murad. He said, quote, whether or not it was a hate crime by law, there's no question it was a hateful act. And again, that's a strong statement from a police chief, you know what I'm saying, to say that in the wake of this. And just touching on what Miracle said, it says the three young men, all 20, have been staying at the home of an uncle of one of them and had gone out for a walk around 6:30 p.m. Saturday. The police said that Mr. Eaton approached the three friends outside the apartment building where he lives and without speaking, pulled out a handgun and started shooting from about 2 yards away. And then also to touch on Miracle's point that, you know, they interviewed his mother. This is James Eaton's mother, and who basically said he had previously struggled with depression. And so a lot of the headlines, and this is also to me a function of white supremacy, how, like, you know, a lot of times this is how white violence is explained away, especially in the wake of mass shootings and a lot of these politicians not wanting to do things like ban assault rifles. It's like, oh, they're depressed. Oh, it's a mental health thing. But then you also don't want to give resources and funds to support like mental health, real mental health work. So just, you know, you all thoughts on this incident, Farouk or Trouble, and how it's being, again, like almost like, you know, Eaton's like almost being whitewashed in the sense of, oh, he's depressed.
So this happened not even 10 years ago in North Carolina when a guy killed 3 Muslim students.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
Over a parking spot.
Yes.
I think it was Dia Barakat, and then I think his sister and his wife. And so this isn't like Miracle said, like this isn't just something that's isolated. Like this is rhetoric based, and these are people who are targeted for a very specific reason. But it's not to say this is something new. You know, there's been we talked about on the show is a 216% rise in anti-Arab Islamic attacks in the States just in the past couple of weeks. But this doesn't erase everything that's been happening, like Miracle said, since 9/11. Like we talked about on the show before, like that guy who came and put like the bacon on the Muslim people's front door, and the people who are like sending pigs' heads to masjids in the States, and that happens a lot in New Zealand and Australia. Like this is regular. And I know, like for me, I used to wear keffiyeh a lot, and like when I would go to a specific masjid, I would have my keffiyeh every day, but I would have to walk through neighborhoods to get to this masjid. And I started thinking about like how unsafe that could potentially make you. You know what I mean? Like I could take care of myself, but I can't box a bullet.
True.
You know what I mean? There's nothing I could do from range. You know what I mean? Like in this specific instance, 6 feet away, and you start shooting at people because of what they dress. You can't do anything about that except for take the bullet. You know, so it's scary, man. These are scary times right now. And like Miracle said, man, this is something that was started over rhetoric and the inability to humanize people who are going through a crisis, who are being destroyed, you know, slaughtered en masse. And the White House is just basically like,
Yeah. And it's interesting because remember the White House just launched, what was this, a couple weeks ago, right? Some type of response to Islamophobia, and I haven't heard anything else from it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because it's like
it's all superfluous, man.
Well, right, and it's in the midst of, you know, this war is going on.
Yeah.
But it is weird that they dropped this while, you know, Islamophobia is rising.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard anything. I don't know if the White House has commented on this shooting as of yet. Trouble, how do you see this?
It pisses me off, bro, because like what Farouk and Miracle were saying, the lack of humanization that we've seen in the media around what's going on overseas is like leading this guy to think that he's doing some kind of civic duty by shooting innocent people who have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Personally. You know what I'm saying? Who are just trying to live their everyday lives and just function as human beings. Now they have to walk around in fear and now traumatized because of something that bro did, and they're just trying to wipe it away as like, oh, he was depressed. Depressed people don't. It's like when I was depressed, I was not thinking about going out and just shooting people at random.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, you know, mental health is a very serious thing, but it should never be used to justify violence. It should never be used to justify injustice. You know what I'm saying? Or to explain it away, because it's something that should be taken more seriously than that.
1,000%.
Yeah. And I like, this isn't anything anybody hasn't said it yet, but like these white men always get this, well, what was their mental state?
1,000%.
First thing that happens when these white men are these mass shooters and they go on these sprees of horrific acts, it's like, what was their mental state? And if we're going to be fair, that's a valid question.
Yes.
If you're going to apply it to all people.
Right, because
if that's a unilateral ask, then cool.
Yeah.
But if we're only talking about a specific type of person, like you said, to kind of like, you know, watch white supremacy work.
Yeah.
Like mass shootings ain't in the DSM-5.
What's that?
That's the psychiatrist diagnosis manual.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
the DSM.
Yeah.
It's like that's not like a diagnosable illness, like as a mass shooter. Nah, nigga. Like you're a hate-filled human being,
right?
And you acted on your urges,
and you're a product of kind of like you said, like what's happening right now. You're a product of, you know, how the media is telling the story. But all you know, we know this. When black and brown people do any type of crime, we're just demonized. When we're victims of police brutality, we're demonized.
Absolutely.
When we don't even kill, like when we're killed, we're demonized and crucified in the media. And it's never, you know, when have you saw a story about violence, black or brown violence, and them saying like, talking about historical trauma or the things we have to face? We don't ever see that. Joe Biden did make a statement about it. He said, Jill and I were horrified to learn that the 3 college students of Palestinian descent, 2 of whom were American citizens, were shot in Burlington. They were simply spending Thanksgiving gathered with family and loved ones. He says, while we are waiting for more facts, we know this. There's absolutely no place for violence or hate in America. Period. No person should worry about being shot while going about their daily lives. But he said, and far too many Americans know a family member injured or killed as a result of gun violence. We cannot and will not accept that. So really, he
owes them an apology, in my opinion.
I mean, that's a kind of that would be a question if he does a press conference, or if, when we get to this point where we're running for office, where somebody would ask him, like, does he think some of his rhetoric from the White House, those numbers of Palestinians that a lot of people thought was very dismissive of the Palestinian pain and loss of life has to do with this? Yes. Even
to me, maybe this is just me being the pessimist that I am, but even his statement of 2 of which were an American citizen.
Yeah. That might have been just a statement of fact.
Maybe.
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe. I don't know. To me, that just seems like doubling down on like...
That might be because, again, if you say 3 Palestinian students, you might think they're from Palestine.
Yeah, I guess.
Palestinian in ethnicity, but 2 were... And then the other one has the right to be here. But I did have a question. My question is white supremacy a mental illness?
No, it's a choice.
Oh, shit. Okay. Go ahead. Can you expound on that?
White supremacy is a choice. You have this mental illness is usually something that you are born with, like or something that happens as a result of trauma, and it rewires your brain. White supremacy is a choice. You wake up choosing to harm another person. You wake up choosing to belittle another person. Okay. You wake up choosing to believe something about people you've never met before. Like, I do not understand the fact that there are a group of Caucasian descendants that wake up every day and go into the woods and practice survivalist training, including drinking their own body fluids in case of a race war. Wow. To me, I would almost say, now I talk about it, that could be mentally ill, but that is each step of the way is a choice, right? That is a choice. You can read a book. You can go out and people watch. You can say, hey, what is going on? What are the systems? What are the beliefs that I have about other people? And how does that impact the way I engage those folks? And also, what is it that I've been taught about a community? What is Allah Akbar mean? You can go Google it, right? Yeah, you don't have to be like, oh, somebody is saying that because they're a terrorist. You can go Google, like, what does that mean? What is the cultural significance of A, B, and C? Like, I think that we sometimes, and almost like implicit bias, we sometimes try to coddle people who are white supremacists because we don't want to sit there and say that there are crappy people who choose to do crappy things.
Deplorables. Isn't that what somebody said?
And we're trying to coddle these folks because they are so violent, right? Yeah. Because they are so violent and they have access to power. We're trying to explain away all this violence. Meanwhile, these folks know that they are violent. Yeah. These folks will even call themselves white supremacists. Or when they're treated a negative way, they'll say, oh, you're treating me like a black person. Yes. Right? So there is a recognition of what's happening. There is a choice to continue certain behaviors. And there is an institutional trajectory that you are also teaching your friends and your children about white supremacy as well. So I would say it's not a mental illness, that it is a choice. I would say it's more of a lifestyle, that it's more of a religion. I would say white supremacy is more of a religion than a mental illness. Mm-hmm. If I would argue.
If we go back to our episode with Dante King, he said that
my favorite, my king, Dante.
The book, The 400-Year Holocaust, White America's.
You kind of got like a little NPR vibe today. You know what I'm saying? Like, very calm today. But go ahead, please continue.
It's sullen, not calm. The 400-Year Holocaust, White America's legal, psychopathic, and sociopathic genocide and revolt against critical race theory. He says, furthermore, it positions racism as a disease or illness, a psychosis, psychopathy, or sociopathy, rather than a mere social construct, and amplifies the significance of anti-blackness and whiteness within and throughout white American institutions.
Right.
So he's saying that it's a mental illness.
Okay.
So he's saying that this is, and you could argue that their belief system is like cultish. You know what I mean? It's
Definitely.
It's something that is like neurologically wrong with these people.
Trouble?
After hearing both sides, I feel like white supremacy culture stems from mental illness, and white supremacy culture creates mental illness.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? It stems from anxiety, psychopathy, I don't even know how to put that in the term I'm using, but it also creates anxiety. It creates depression.
Yes.
I remember in 2017 when I was in and out of the mental hospital, part of that whole depressive episode that I was having was me realizing how deep racism and white supremacy culture actually goes.
Yes.
And realizing, damn, I'm looking at a mountain that I thought was a pebble.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And feeling overwhelmed. What am I supposed to do about this? How do I operate this? And how am I supposed to move forward? You know what I'm saying?
I think your point of it causes it causes mental illness. I feel like a lot of the stuff that we deal with, even when you talk about your own self-image, oftentimes comes through the lens of white supremacy and can cause folks to look and feel a different way. Well, if you asked where what's the bastion of white supremacy now? If you said, okay, if I want the real raw white supremacist, anti-Semitic Islamophobia in its rawest form, where do I go? The answer would be you would go to the X. You know what I'm saying? You would go to formerly known as Twitter, because since Elon Musk has purchased Twitter and then turned it to the X, it's become a place where white supremacists and neo-Nazis and all these individuals are just spewing all types of racism and white supremacy that's going unchecked. Not only going unchecked, but Elon Musk himself has publicly endorsed anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, particularly lately, particularly the one that Jewish communities push hatred against whites, right? This was the theory, the similar theory that, Robert Bowers had, who committed the Tree of Life massacre, right? Speaking of rhetoric to violence. And so here's Elon Musk, somebody talking about Jewish people funded, hate against white people, responded in a tweet that was very true. And of course, when Elon responds, because he has so many followers, he pushes that content into, millions of people's feeds because it's Elon Musk. And so Elon Musk, when he did this last one, the last anti-Semitic, he's done mad anti-Semitic tweets. You know what I'm saying? He's tried to cancel the ADL. He's done a lot. The last one caused the exodus of some of the biggest advertisers on the X, right? Disney pulled out, right? Some of these really, really, really large companies, a lot of them pulled out because of anti-Semitism. And so Elon Musk feeling the heat. And I'm going to tell y'all, I look at Elon Musk, if one thing Elon Musk does for me, it makes me believe anybody. If Elon Musk can be a billionaire, anybody can be a billionaire.
No, that's facts.
Because he's not, I know he inherited and I know all that, but I'm just saying he's not very intelligent in how he's going about things, because in the wake of being called an anti-Semite, he decided to go visit the most unpopular Jewish person in the world, in Benjamin Netanyahu. You would think that he could find a Jewish person slightly more popular than 4% approval rating Benjamin Netanyahu. But, and this is, remember, the second time. The first time he had an anti-Semitic thing, he met with Benjamin Netanyahu. And now he traveled to Israel, and Benjamin Netanyahu I guess there is a humanitarian pause or whatever you want to call it. Took him around. And so what do you all think about Elon Musk openly being anti-Semitic, but the fact that, like, why is his lifeline if Benjamin Netanyahu is your Jewish lifeline, am I wrong in thinking you might be in some trouble?
You can't sell the cure without being the cause.
Oh, okay.
And that is what I would say Elon Musk. White men do this thing where they act like they're stupid in order to be violent and have people like, well, maybe he just didn't know. Maybe he just needs somebody to educate him. Maybe he needs somebody to talk to him.
Right.
Maybe, because he just can't be that much of a bigot.
Okay.
And that's one of the 48 laws of power, too.
So let me ask this, because that you make up, it's like, he's actively harming. Like, you would think, like, okay, if you're a good businessman and you buy a product, that you would want the product to increase in value. Like, you would want to create a product where, like, more people want it, more people subscribe to it, more advertisers want to, like, it seems like he's purposely destroying X with these anti-Semitic posts and hurting Tesla and his other companies, SpaceX, all of them.
He doesn't technically get hurt because he's the ownership. The investors are the ones who get hurt.
Oh shit!
Right, so he's fine. I mean, he's when your parents are literally colonizers and you get to have a mine where you can just get money from stealing land from Africans. This is what happens. But what Elon Musk did was he did this thing. Then he hopped on a flight to Israel.
Yes,
and then he did this little thing with Netanyahu by promising people, I'm not anti-Semitic, and to do that, I'll promise you, I won't give the Gazan people access to the internet via Starlink. I will make sure that the people who are oppressed and harmed won't have access to the internet, so they won't be able to critique you or to share information that makes you look bad. See, I'm not anti-Semitic. And on top of that, if you buy into my company, right, and I partner this business arrangement with you, it works. Because what does Elon Musk do? When people are saying he's anti-Semitic, he then turns around and says, you know what? I will stop black and brown people from having free speech on my platform.
Yeah.
And then I prove to you that I have loyalty to you. And that's, again, when people have to remember, Elon Musk bought X because he did not want to see black and brown people creating social movements on social media. And he was a free speech provocateur.
Yes.
All this type of stuff until it came to black and brown folks. So anything he can do to get black and brown people off his platform, he is going to do that, number one. And anything he can do to make it seem like he's the good guy in the end, he'll also do that. So he says something anti-Semitic. Instead of making an actual apology, he'll talk to somebody from the ADL, he'll talk to somebody from Netanyahu, introduce a policy that is already enforced, and then he's the good guy again.
Yeah.
And it's wash and repeat. And he always does these little contracts and these amplifications. And so people are like, oh, he's a good guy again. He has said who he is from the very beginning.
From the beginning.
He has said what he believes from the very beginning. And then Netanyahu, who is someone who's at that 4%, can be like, look, I brought Elon over and he said he's going to stop these people from tweeting these 4 words. So therefore, like, I'm the good guy. Look what I've done for you. And so these white supremacist power brokers always are able to work together and build each other up because they do this type of work. And I think a lot of times because we don't want to believe people are just racist bigots, we want to believe they're just like bumbling idiots.
Yeah.
And that we allow it to happen. I think about Boris Johnson, especially in the UK.
Yeah.
I think about Trump at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like, how was he to know that saying they're not saying their best and their brightest was offensive? Oh, then we have the Muslim ban.
Yeah.
Oh, then we have mass deportation.
Yeah.
Well, how was he to know that people were going to be harmed by that, right? And
Yes.
so it's like a simple, like, wash and repeat. So that's why I don't try to like, oh, maybe he's a fool, but no, he's doing this on purpose. And at the end of the day, like, a lot of us still are on, I had to call it Twitter, but like, yes. He knows he has this product that people are using, and so he's able to wield that.
To manipulate
a lot of people have left, we're trying to like move to different platforms and engage on different platforms, but we're seeing that with social media, people are still trying to attack social media because it's such an important tool to educate people about what's happening in the world. So he's able to use that power
to organize, right? Just a follow up. It was Walt Disney, Warner Brothers, NBC Universal, and Comcast suspended their advertisements on Twitter. According to at this meeting, Elon Musk said, we have to do whatever is necessary to stop the hate unless it's on my platform. And then we gotta increase it and amplify. It's kind of wild to hear him say that, but at the same time talk about free speech, and all of these different things. So it is fascinating. Farouk or Trouble?
We need a documentary called Twitter AE. Like Twitter after Elon.
Facts.
Surviving Elon. Man, we need one of them joints.
Apartheid Elon.
Man, I mean, that's real. You know what I'm saying? That is super weird to watch that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised though. Like, his family has a lineage of hate.
True.
So, it's just it's on brand for him. It tracks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the idea, also kind of like what Miracle said, like this idea that like simply by visiting Israel for like a day, all of a sudden like you're not going to be anti-Semitic anymore. But remember one of the things that Elon said after the anti-Semitic accusations and all of these advertisers leaving Twitter was he said like if you say like decolonization, like that was hate speech. And so again, it's like, you're going to allow neo-Nazis to post. And one of the, they're suing a site called Media Matters right now because Media Matters actually has like evidence of like, here's a person praising Hitler and here's the NFL's advertisement right on their feed, right? Here's a person saying something anti-Semitic. Here's a Disney or ESPN thing on their feed. They have that. They actually have and showing that proof. And so it is wild that instead of saying like, we're going to eliminate people praising Hitler, right? We're going to eliminate neo-Nazis from the website. We're going to eliminate people talking about white genocide or white supremacist talk. We're going to stop people from saying decolonize. Like, that's your answer? Yeah. But again, it shows, I think what you said, Miracle, that like, is this all like this kind of tap dance and show for you to get like attention and then turn around and flip it? It's really, really kind of wild to see. And it becomes kind of like Farouk said, it's almost like a movie. It becomes like, is this real life or is this some made documentary that we're watching in real time,
This season of America is
it's fascinating.
It's beyond like your wildest comprehension that this is where we are.
Correct.
And the fact that so much of the rhetoric of what's happening in Israel and Palestine has changed because of Twitter.
Yes.
Literally, you had people fact checking in real time these posts. We had people fact checking in real time, doing translations in real time. And again, I keep saying, without social media, this whole situation would have been totally different.
Yes.
The outcome for the White House would have been totally different.
Yes.
Without social media, because it would have taken a day or two to get something translated. To me, has been the most like interesting, but like psychologically warped time in our lifetimes, because it's almost like watching a TV show in your front room, but it's a war and famine and violence.
This isn't like,
shouldn't. I don't think we should have this much like access, and it like it's just weird. Their whole like Telegram and WhatsApp channels of people just being like, "This is my life," and it's like, go live and watch me. Like it's just weird.
It definitely and it makes me wonder about like, how do we determine the psychological effects?
Do generals know that this is what their soldiers are doing, right? Because Like, do they know they're on TikTok? Like, when you're looking at some of the stuff, like, why would you say, like, do you not understand that, like, you can't say that?
Yeah, I remember a video where it was like an Israeli soldier, like, threw a stun grenade into a mosque. And it was like a TikTok thing. And it was just like, and, you know, the Israeli government said he was suspended or whatever. But it was a thing of like, again, it made me think like, don't you got to sign something on that? Like, isn't there a document that you sign to say some stuff shouldn't be recorded or private? But it is, it's like seeing the death, because, I'll hit my feed sometimes and I'm looking at a dead child.
Yeah, that was
I'll be trying to scroll like, but again, it's like, I wonder if there is going to be a study on like what psychological effect that has on us. Like, do we become so desensitized that the next thing that moves us has to be like, 100,000 deaths or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, have we got to this point? And then also too, the flip side of it, Miracle, is there's also a lot of misinformation being posted on the internet. A lot of things where people will say, yo, this is a live stream from Israel, and it won't be, right? This is a live stream from Gaza, and you find out that this was something that happened in Indonesia like 3 or 4 years ago. So you do also have a lot of that misinformation mixed in. And what ends up happening is like, you pick your side, right? And it's almost like, oh, I want to believe this because this helps my side. Oh, well, this other information, this helps my side. And so it is this kind of constant back and forth that we see. And it's just, it's fascinating. And again, like, I remember, to me, the beginning of it was Ferguson. And it was like, oh, I don't have to watch CNN. I can follow people that are on the ground that are giving me information on the ground. And so you have these now folks that have emerged out of Gaza as media people, because they're like giving people this, incredible, like, close view of it. But then what does that do to us psychologically?
And I also say a part of that is also the reason why we were founded, is that I think the very beginning, I would say even more than a week ago, a lot of media didn't feel comfortable presenting, quote unquote, all sides of the conflict, right?
Yes.
There's a whole controversy in Canada right now where the leading Canadian television program said, don't say the word Palestine or Palestinian when you're reporting on anything in the Middle East.
Oh, wow.
Because we want to present our viewers with a specific narrative. And so people have had to bully. People had to bully CNN, right? We've had to like bully anchors, be like, "This is the facts." You got to remember, Don Lemon was fired because he pushed back against Vivek.
Yeah,
I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
And he was saying, "Hey, you're lying about what happened in the civil rights movement." Don Lemon lost his job.
He lost his job,
and so a lot of journalists were like, "You know what? I need to survive. Yeah. I don't have that multi-million-dollar contract, so then I am just not going to push back." And so you've had to literally call out journalists, literally do side by sides to get them to have real conversations. And conflict, it's not easy, but you have to say, this is what's going on the ground. This is what's happening. This is what's being alleged. And I think it really showed that a lot of journalists are still themselves fighting white supremacy,
right?
And fighting to find words that they can use to sit there and say, this is what's happening, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. Right? We had a CNN. Abby Phillips was saying like people are supporting terrorism because they're saying glory to our martyrs, and people had to go and explain in the Muslim tradition what does that mean and why people say that, right? And that wasn't happening like 5 years ago on a mass scale, 6 years ago, a decade ago on a mass scale. And it seems that there's so much miscommunication within our communities that a lot of these conflicts seem like maybe if people just talk to each other, that we wouldn't be here. Maybe if there was like more diplomacy, if maybe there was more time to actually sit down and break bread and have conversations, maybe a lot of this bigotry, hatred, and violence wouldn't be occurring.
That's the hope.
But I think sometimes our governments are so wedded to like death, violence, and destruction and chaos. They do diplomacy in the healing stage and not in the preventative stage. I think that's what we're seeing, is that like we need more people and more community to come together and push back and to create safety. And I think that we're starting to see that a lot more. But it's because of communities coming together and fighting for that and educating each other that we're even at this point to say, hey, let's sit down and have this conversation, and let's talk about how we can approach our elected officials in a collaborative effort, because no one should be in war, whether it's Palestine, Israel, the Congo, the Sudan, Tigray, like all these places. It's like this is all unnecessary, and I hope that seeing all this death and violence on our timeline would push us to say, you know what, we don't have to live in a world like this.
Yeah, but I think like if folks are being told, or if there's a memo or something put out that says don't use the term Palestinians, while there's a war in Gaza, right? There's a war where Palestinians are being killed, and like that, to me, that plays into the dehumanization of a person and the idea that one life is more valuable than another life. I would think as a journalist, but again, like, you know, capitalism is also very real, you know, and we, and I think like, and I say that to say like, one of the things we saw play out was, you know, you just had this guy like randomly going up to a halal cart with like just the most vile Islamophobia that you can imagine. Then we find out that he's just not some guy. Say that this guy, what was it, Stuart Sedowitz, was like the person in charge of like Israel-Palestinian policy for Obama's administration. And you're like, wait, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like some guy that's just doing his, like cooking his food, just chilling. And you're like, and he's telling you like, I don't speak English. Like, he's not engaging this man in any argument. You know what I'm saying? He's not getting out of his cart. You know, like, you know, when people talk to you in a certain way, and I've been in situations where I'm like, oh, you want me to physically attack you, and then you could be the victim, right? So he didn't fall for that. I mean, all of this thing. And so I think when we see that, it's like, wait, what? This guy was on the National Security Council?
But also, when you have bigots making foreign policy,
that
should be like, you know what, maybe we're not doing the right thing right now. Maybe we need to pause on everything. And reevaluate our political infrastructure, our foreign policy. Maybe we need to figure out, do we have actual bigots that we're sending over there? And maybe
I'll save you the guesswork. Yes.
You know, I would always, of course I want to say yes, but I think that for politicians who are like, how can I get out of this, right? How can we be like, maybe I think this is the time to say, you know what? We need to pause and we need to look at what is happening. We need to look at how we've engaged people all over the world, because I'm of the idea that the global South is going to rise. And it's going to come with a vengeance for Americans. And we are not even thinking.
Let's hope not. Can we?
But we're not even thinking about what does that mean in 20, 30 years? When we're no longer the superpower that we think we are.
Right.
When you know, and all these communities that we've harmed are going to be looking at us for their own reparation.
Well, that's why these white dudes is in the woods right now, Miracle. You know what I'm saying? They preparing for that.
I think we need to create a different foreign policy to say, you know what, we've made some oopsies. You know, we made some boo-boos, and we need to figure out how to fix it. We need to figure out how to go to community partners as partners, how to do better investment, how to use our businesses, our corporations to say, you know what, maybe we should not be having a genocide over cobalt. Maybe we need to figure out a way to pay people a living wage, to invest in communities, and find better ways to have, you know, extractions of resources so that it doesn't end in death. Because
Miracle says it's like every episode, and it's like it's not gonna happen.
It's not happening. But then what ends up happening is you get terrorists, right?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about stopping terrorism, when we're talking about stopping gang violence, when we're talking about stopping all of these purveyors of violence, it's like you got to help.
Yeah.
You got to help folks, and you got to have reparations and transformative justice to the people you've harmed, or they're going to grow up hating you. And hate with violence and opportunity is death.
Again.
And so I would rather heal people than allow them to do harm.
And you're right. The sad part is the way capitalism works, it's like get money now. Yeah. It's kind of like do all the shit now, and then maybe I'll deal with it later, right? You know, and this is kind of a while, you know, one of the things we're watching happen. And I did want to say, you know, he was arrested. Stewart was arrested, you know what I'm saying, for hate crimes. And I did want to shout out, he worked for a place called Gotham Government Relations. And the guy who runs Gotham Government Relations not only fired him, but said, if this Allow Cart guy needs a lawyer pro bono, I will go to court with you pro bono against this dude. You know what I'm saying? So I did, you know, that's the kind of energy.
Stewart was terrorizing that office.
That's what I said.
They were like, they were just waiting for a reason.
They eliminated him with just cause and prejudice.
So I thought that was like cool. But one of the things we're seeing, like in New York, because New York had passed this law around sexual assault, is like now all
and
of
what's
these.
Crazy is that the mayor of New York,
Eric Adams, and you know they got 4 or 5 on Diddy. But again, it's like this thing of like, I'll do this now. I'm rich. I'm powerful. I'll do this wild shit. And then I'll worry about it. And it's like, now you're starting to see consequences. Oh, this stuff you did in the 90s. The stuff you did there that you thought was buried has now come back. And, you know, Diddy just had to step away from revolt, or we don't even know what that means. But now
50 trying to buy it.
Well, I'm just saying, like now, that's kind of hilarious. But like now, it's like that comes back to haunt you. That's that karma piece. You know what I'm saying? And that always, you know, I mean, that's kind of the hope that karma like rebalances the universe in a proper way. And speaking of karma, in perhaps the blackest event to ever happen on Black Friday,
crazy.
Derek Chauvin was stabbed.
Oh shit!
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is crazy.
Niggas love Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is crazy.
They're gonna have to put the phone books on him next time he go to.
I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Niggas caught wreck on Derek Chauvin. I'm not mad about that. Chickens coming home to roost never made me mad.
Again,
in fact, it made me glad.
Yeah, like, and you know, and then of course, like
that was a Malcolm X quote,
that is a Malcolm X quote. You know, black people that still are on Twitter or the X, you know, we do what we do. You know what I'm saying? It was just jokes galore. But again, like, why should we be upset?
There wasn't like an article written about how this now.
Let's get to that, right?
Okay.
Because I mean, let's put it in perspective. Derek Chauvin kneeled on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 43 seconds until he died. Right, this wasn't he came around the corner and it was a shadow and I didn't know he had a wallet and I shot and I was scared in the moment. This wasn't that. This is probably why he's in jail right now, because it wasn't that. You couldn't say you were scared in the moment. You was kneeling on this man's neck for damn near 10 minutes, right? And he was saying he couldn't breathe. People were begging you to get off this man's neck and he died, right? And then we found out that Derek Chauvin had other police brutality incidents in the past, right? This wasn't his first death or kill, right? So when Derek Chauvin gets stabbed, there is some karma to it. Shit, I mean, he's still alive. I mean, he still has his life.
Lucky.
Right, George Floyd doesn't. But, you know, I guess it says...
I wonder if they broke the blade off in him.
I mean, I would like to, you know, don't there be video in nobody had a cell phone?
If they caught him in the yard, well, if they caught him that's the thing. If they caught him in the yard, that's one thing. It would be surveillance.
So it says, that he was being held in a specialized federal facility. But in the wake of Derek Chauvin's stabbing, that made a lot of people's Black Friday. It definitely, you know, it made mine. Made the turkey go down a little bit easy. The New York Times put an article out.
Yeah, it was just some bullshit. But
and the title of the article Stabbing of Derek Chauvin raises questions about inmate safety. Questions to who? Nobody black thought to themselves, why wasn't Derek Chauvin protected? How was he stabbed?
What do they tell us all the time? If you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
If you can't do the time, don't do. So then this is what they said. Let's listen to this. The New York Times. Yo, what? Listen to this statement. The assault comes less than 5 months after Larry Nassar, the doctor convicted of sexually abusing young female gymnasts, hundreds of them, was also stabbed multiple times. These sound like some good stabbings.
Yeah, I'm saying.
These sound like some well thought out stabbings. Am I wrong?
But when I say I love crime, I'm the problem.
I don't think that's crime. Like technically it's crime. Like, hey, look, Larry Nassar should get worse than multiple stabbings for what he did.
With you.
I'm with that dad that tried to rush him in the courtroom.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they held that dad back. Like that, what he did? Look, wait, hold on. Recent deaths. Like Jeffrey Epstein. Come on, man. What? Is this what we worried about, Miracle? We're worried about these,
but
man?
I mean, it's
Go
ahead.
Okay,
ahead.
wait. An abolitionist wants to talk. Are we going? You gonna get your abolitionist bag now, Miracle?
I am. But the problem in the New York Times article, they're like, look at all these white men who've been harmed.
Yes.
There we go.
Look at all these white men who've been harmed in jails and prisons. Excuse me.
And not just white men, the worst of the worst.
We just had a black man be eaten alive by bugs in the Fulton County jail.
Come on, Miracle.
Thank you.
Come on.
What are you talking about?
Come
we
on.
have people with mental health issues decompensating in our prisons and jails every day. And this white man getting stabbed, that is what makes the New York Times say something.
Wait a second.
It's like that scene from The Godfather. It's just like, they view only the animals in jail.
Yeah.
They only view it. They don't, again, this episode is about humanization of people.
True.
And clearly, this New York Times article illustrates that white supremacist rhetoric, American rhetoric, the general public and the populace only view black people as subhuman or animalistic, which in turn results their being encaged in correctional facilities. So when a white person comes in there who doesn't belong or should be in protective custody or whatever, gets poked up, don't have the phone books on, that's your fault, nigga, because someone on your book should have told you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They should have told you.
Yes.
But I'm not mad that they didn't because they were setting you up. But now it's an issue.
And then it's like, think about prison. What Cam say? Niggas get stabbed every day, B.
Come on, B. You tough, right?
We talking about prison, man.
Hey, man.
Niggas get stabbed.
Niggas get stabbed every day,
What?
Jay-Z had to fund lawyers to sue Parchman Prison in Mississippi because how violent it was.
Yes.
For decades, people have been organizing and uplifting how violent and harmful our prisons and jails are.
Yeah.
People are sentenced to do crime, not to get tortured, not to get assaulted, not to get frozen out, not to get, heated up, not to get boiling water thrown on them. People, most go to prison, are going to come home. And so people have for years said we need to talk about our conditions and safeties in our jails and prisons. But for the New York Times to be like, look, all of these white men who have done these horrible things have had violence beset upon them as they're in custody, and now we need to talk about.
Listen,
not when we have youth when we have people
not when
16-year-old.
Now we have innocent folks in these places.
100%. No,
like not when we've been talking about closing Rikers for over a decade. But this New York Times
we're right here in Allegheny County. We have one of the most dangerous jails
in the country,
where people are dying like flies and nothing's being done. But wait, it gets worse. Listen to this line. This is the New York Times. It was not clear how Mr. Chauvin, who is serving a sentence of just over 2 decades in federal prison, was assaulted. Nor was it clear why prison officials failed to protect one of its most hated and vulnerable inmates. He is one of the... Hey, check it out. If I'm a prison, think about if you're a prison guard and you black and you see Derek Chauvin.
Man, listen.
Man, jump on this motherfucker with both feet.
It's like that.
Both feet.
Come on, it's like that scene in The Wire when they was fucking with Weebay.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
1,000%. Come on, man. But again, and this isn't a smart. This is a long article. You got like 1,000 words in the New York Times. So whoever was the stabber of both these men, you know what I'm saying? Whoever organized, whoever put it together. Shout out to y'all. Y'all get our black ass.
we need to put money in. We need to put money in their books, man.
Hey, yo, that dude books will be. If we found out who did it, his books is going to be busted.
Remember the black dude in South Carolina? I forgot. His name just went up over who jumped on Dylan's roof.
Yes.
And then he was able to get out simply because so many people paid money to his GoFundMe. He could afford bail.
I love it.
Like,
I love it.
That didn't make you say, huh?
Yes.
Like, why are people stuck in jail only because they can't afford bail?
1,000%.
Like, and what I hate is, and I'm starting to see this like as an abolitionist,
yes,
like a lot of our words and rhetoric are being co-opted by like white supremacists, right?
Yes.
We've said for years, like no prisons and jails, we need to figure out transformative justice, Now we get that, but it's for these white men who do these like heinous, horrible things.
Yes.
They get the benefit of abolition. They get the benefit of community placements. They get the benefit of drug courts.
Yeah.
And they get the benefit
protective custody
of being vulnerable.
Yes.
Like Derek Chauvin gets to be vulnerable. A cop, someone who the state trained, someone who was able to terrorize folks under the guidance and support of the state gets to be vulnerable.
Yes.
But people who are living with disabilities, the black people who are in these facilities, the immigrant people who could not even speak the same languages, they don't get to be seen as vulnerable and needing a protection. We had right here in Pennsylvania, an officer say that he had the right to sexually assault a woman at the deportation facility simply because she was an American citizen and she didn't have a right to sue him back. Like this is the wild stuff we have to deal with. But Derek Chauvin gets a 1,000 plus article about the safety of prisons in the U.S.
with Larry Nassar added to it,
and probably because of the article, some of these prisons will now get better investments and updates.
Absolutely,
because of that article.
That's the
and
take
not because of all of the work, pain, and suffering that black and brown organizers have put into this work. That's the wildest part about that.
You know what I want?
That is white supremacy.
You know what I want? I want to know these stories. Like, I want to know the story of the stabbing plannings. I want to see, and I want them in part 2 of life sentences, writings inside of American prison.
Well played.
It's our white pages, you know what I'm saying? Life sentences, writing inside of an American prison. The Elsnor Banu think tank for restorative justice is our white page. So yeah, these are some of the stories that I want. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. Yeah. You had a point?
No, I mean, I've said this multiple times on the show before. I think that police officers should get enhanced time, like gang enhancements.
I agree.
For whenever they commit crimes. I don't think that they should be eligible for protective custody.
Yeah.
I think that they should have to stay in Gen Pop.
You should have a higher. I always thought, like, because police officers are trained,
right? Again, there should be an enhancement attached to the sentence. Absolutely,
right? Because you know the law. Supposedly, you're trained. You know the law. When you break the law as a police officer,
no different than being a predicate felon,
and you break like the public trust. Right? We just had a story here in Pittsburgh where a police officer like accidentally discharged his weapon, and then he was on. I guess they drug tested him and he did a positive drug test, and it's like, oh, he's given a 5-day suspension. But if me and you discharge a gun and are high, we're going into the jail.
Absolutely.
Right? We're going to get time. Police, because you are a police officer, because of what you represent, you should get more time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's pretty deep. There also was another little bit of good news. According to Newsweek, Kyle Rittenhouse has lost all his money.
Yes.
So that's also, like, I don't know. Can we get claps for that? Can we get claps for Kyle Rittenhouse?
He probably has that in an account somewhere overseas.
We hope that he's broke. You know what I'm saying?
He gets sued right now.
He has a new book coming out. Man, that's probably was like, he got a book coming out. He wants you to buy his book. Like, I'm broke now. Please buy my book. Man, the hell with that. But he is being sued by, like he should be, by the victims of the lives of the people that he took, the lives he took. And so I hope if he makes any more money, it all goes to those victims.
Facts.
You had something else, Miracle, that you wanted to share?
Oh, I was going to say, and it's almost sold out, but this weekend we'll be in New York.
Oh, the UJC Summit's almost sold out. So we're in New York, the United Justice Coalition Summit. It's at the Javits Center. You can still, tickets are free. You can still get tickets to go. And it's a lot of folks. I just seen, like I said, my brother Galen Gilchrist, who's the lieutenant governor of Michigan, is going to be there. I saw Desmond Meade is going to be there, another, friend of ours and just an amazing organizing and workers. So it's going to be a lot of panels, very informative, and a featured organization is going to be there called One Hood. So if you want to meet us in person, if you're in the New York area, we're going to have merchandise, swag, all that stuff, and you can meet Miracle in person.
Oh, what? No. Why? No. I am an introvert. I'm an introvert. Especially when we got to be there 8 a.m. I'm going to be like,
yes.
My purse down doesn't kick in until 2:00.
Yeah. And, this Thursday, it's sold out, but we did get an advanced screening of Renaissance, and we're doing that. That's going to be really dope this Thursday. Unfortunately, it is sold out. If you didn't get your ticket, are bad. Shout out to Movie Scene Queen that's making it happen. But if you miss the screening of Renaissance on December 9th, we have an advanced screening of The Color Purple coming up. The Color Purple musical is going to be at Cinemark in Monroeville, December 9th at 6 p.m., and it is free. You don't have to register. All you got to do is show up. You don't have to register. You just come. I don't know. Are we wearing purple? How are we dressing for The Color Purple? Are we wearing
about to tell
purple?
Yes.
We have 4 theaters, Miracle. This is a collaboration. Again, One Hood, Movie Scene Queen. I think the Urban League has a theater. So it's come on December 9th. Flood the Cinemark, Monroeville.
Be on your best behavior.
Be on your best behavior. And so those are some dope things. Anything else happening?
Yes. So this weekend, at the same time that we'll be in New York,
yes,
at the Kelly Strayhorn Theater, there is an artist by the name of Andrea Rand Mathis.
Okay, who
is Kelly Strayhorn's Freshworks new performance and process artist in residence.
Oh,
they have a performance by the name of Diving Within on December 1st and December 2nd. If you wanted to check that out, it's going to be really dope. It's pretty much a story about, so it says, as a proud black trans woman, Rand Mathis draws inspiration from her personal recovery process after her gender transition, as well as the painful yet beautiful healing journeys of other people of color through dance, music, drag, performative storytelling, and audio from first-person interviews. Rand Mathis breathes life into her impactful performance, Diving Within, and reflects on self-discovery and recovery from negative experiences. So if you're in Pittsburgh while we're in New York, I think that's something really dope that you should catch this weekend.
Very cool, very cool. Amazing. Farouk?
No.
Nothing. Nothing happening. No. Miracle, one more thing.
It's cold outside.
It is cold.
It's very cold. So please remember to just make sure to be thankful if you have a place to be when it's cold.
True.
If you want to do something for people, go to the dollar store, stock up on socks and gloves and scarves. And when you're out and about, and if you see people in need, just give them a little token of gloves, socks, scarves. It's gonna be cold. We're down shelter space. So again, just try to be as a light in this world as much as possible.
Right, and if you have something you could donate to folks, please do that. You're absolutely right. It is cold, and let's make sure that we keep those less fortunate for us, in not just in our thoughts and prayers, but also do the things we can do to make sure folks survive in these difficult times. And we try to bring a little bit of laughter and hopefully some entertainment to you during these times as well. And we hope you enjoyed our episode like we did. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm channeling Mr. Rogers now. With that being said, we will see you all next week on This Week in White Supremacy. Peace. One hood, y'all.